Good afternoon. Welcome to a joint meeting of the New York State Bridge Authority Audit Committee and Finance Committee. We have all three members of the Audit Committee present, Commissioners Lashua and Higgins and myself. We have of the Finance Committee, Commissioner Gerantine in person and Commissioner Ramalya electronically. So we have a pretty similar agendas for the two of them. And I think first, if the Finance Committee wants to start off by adopting your minutes of your December 22nd meeting.
Yep, we had a meeting on December 22nd. We have the minutes right here. Need a motion to approve the adopt of the meeting. Joe, would you kindly do so?
Say that again, Rich.
Will you please make a motion to adopt the minutes of December 22nd?
Motion to adopt the minutes.
Second by myself. All in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
All right. Then we have a review of Tosky and Company 2011 audit report, which is right here.
And we have, representing the firm, we have Joseph Klimek here. Did I say the name closely?
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right. And we're being joined by our finance person, Brian Bushek, also.
Okay.
Just want to highlight this, Joe?
Yes, for highlight.
Thank you.
Our required communication to the board and audit committee, both committees. We are pleased to say that we've completed the audit of the December 31st, 2011 financial statements. Our responsibility is to communicate certain standard information to the board to show how you have met your obligation with in overseeing the financial statements. Our responsibility is to express an opinion on your financial statements, whether or not they are in all material respects in conformity with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. Our audit is based on consideration of your internal control, but we do not express any assurance on your internal control. That is, we don't give you an opinion on the effectiveness of your internal control. We are aware that there will be coming up shortly. Our audit finance statements will be included in a new bond. So I want to make sure that we are privy to that information. We have to do our certain due diligence to put our financial statements into that document with our audit report. Significant audit findings, page 2. There were no significant audit findings that we need to communicate to the committee. Management and its financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. There are no material weaknesses that we noted in your internal control, nor significant deficiencies that we need to report. Significant accounting policies are consistent from year to year. Last year, there was a new issue regarding the walkover to Hudson, and that was new in 2010, and that's been accounted for consistently from year to year in 2011. Counting estimates, you have some counting estimates that we looked at management's assertions and whether or not we're reasonable. All of them were reasonable. Collection of accounts receivable, the useful lives in depreciating your capital assets, the conditional assessment of your bridges, competent absences, and your accrued liability for retirees' health insurance were all based on reasonable estimates. Sensitive disclosures in your financial statements. This year there was a refunding of the 2002 bonds, which are on page 19 of your financial statements. You should be aware of the impact of that refunding. There were no difficulties encountered in performing our audit. There were several small adjustments we made to the financial statements regarding retirement incentive, competent absences, and accounts payable. There were no disagreements with management in any of the areas that we looked at. Management did provide us a representation, which we were required to have before we issue these financial statements. We're not aware of management consultation with any other accounting firms or other accountants. And generally, we discussed a variety of matters, including the application of accounting principles with the authority and management before our retention as auditors. That's just part of our normal discussions regarding our professional relationship. In your financial statements, there are other information in the financial statements, there's the management discussion analysis and your bridge assessments. They are, we did some information, we did testing of those, but we do not, we compared and reconciled the supplementary information to the underlying accounting records used to prepare the financial statements or to the financial statements themselves. Financial statements, briefly, we gave you unqualified opinion on your financial statements for the years ended 2011 and 2010. Financial highlights, the net assets of the authority were $93.4 million at the end of the year, which was a decrease of $4.2 million from the prior year. I guess I can make that as brief as I want there.
Now, this, as he mentioned, this audit is part of our, will be incorporated into our bonding. It's also what we use to, we have to do required notifications to state government, and that's coming up on our agenda. So, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Clement about the audit? Thank you very much. Good to hear from you. Good to hear that there was no bad news.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
I'm going to interject for just a minute with the Finance Committee members. We should adopt our minutes from our December 22nd meeting as well. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Now, both committees have reviewed the Tosky and Company annual
Did you say
report.
Finance Committee, or did you
No,
say the
Audit Committee.
Audit Committee.
The Finance Committee already adopted their
I know.
minutes, so we just did our.
I just thought you said Finance.
Oh, well, excuse me.
So he meant the Audit Committee.
Motion to accept the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting.
Moved again.
All in
Sorry.
favor? Aye. All right. The next item on both agendas is the Section 2800 report, which is required reporting under the Public Authorities Law to various titled positions within the state legislature and the government. Do you have any comments on that, Brian?
The annual reports, or a good portion of the annual reports that we send to Paris, the heads of the legislature. In addition, we also post them on the website, filing them with the ABO through Paris. This is all consistent with public authorities law. Just to go through them quickly, it's an annual report on our accomplishments and projects undertaken, our financial statements, a schedule of debt issuance, a schedule of compensation for heads of the authority compensated in excess of $100,000 per year, the code of ethics, a schedule of real estate held, an internal control statement, and the authority's annual measurement report associated with its mission statement, and lastly, a certification.
Now, do these different reports and the audit itself, do they need to be accepted and recommended to the full board, or?
I believe last year we accepted them at the committee and the board adopted them as its report.
And is it just the Finance Committee? That
It was both committees because the financials fell within the charter of both committees.
Okay, so we can have resolutions from both committees accepting the 2800 Public Authorities Law reports. Is there a motion for the Audit Committee?
So moved.
Second.
We're all in favor, aye?
Aye.
How about you, Finance
But
Committee?
we gotta make a motion, Joe. Make a motion? We have to make a motion first.
So moved.
All right, I second it. All in favor? Say aye.
All right, so
We
both
passed it, too.
committees have accepted and recommended the Public Authorities Law reporting to the full board. Next, we have the annual investment report. Is on the Audit Committee.
And the finance committee.
And
the
both,
Finance
okay.
Committee, yeah.
So we have from Ryan again, this includes the investment guidelines and a record of our income and so forth. You want to address this for us?
As well as it's a letter from the accounting firm stating that we were in compliance with the bond resolution from their perspective. The investment guidelines, which had not been changed year over year, and our investment income for the year end 2011. Okay, it was slightly down due to not only lower yields in terms of investments, but also our declining level of investments available because we reached the end of the life cycle of the toll. Okay, this report, as well as the other 2800 report, will be provided to the heads of the legislature, into Paris, and we will also be publishing them on our website.
So, again, I believe both committees should accept this and refer it to the full committee. So does the audit committee accept the annual investment report?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
And now you finance guys, do you want to take the same action?
Make a
So
move.
moved.
Make a move. Second it. All in favor? Yes?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, here's where the two agendas differ. It
Okay.
would be your preference as to whether or not you would just like to cover the last audit committee item, which is the internal audit assessment, or the internal controls assessment, or whether you would like to go to the bond resolution, which I will bring Chris Shaw.
Well, let's do that internal controls real quickly. Very good.
We can close out that.
We had the internal auditor's report. Now, we contracted out for this year, right?
That is correct. Since the authority does not have a on-staff internal auditor, we had contracted out to Tronconi and Segarra to help us perform an assessment of our internal controls. Their report, as you have attached, and a summary of their findings, as well as the authority's actions being taken to go and address those concerns. As noted in the report, there were no material control issues that were identified, several items being addressed of an administrative nature.
This, as you look through this, you'll see there were recommendations. Some of them they noted were insignificant, but we should have a policy to deal with them. Others, one of the items addressed the issue we had with some of the disposal of the materials and how that was being handled to deal with the problem that developed with that. Does the audit committee accept the internal auditor's recommendations? Audit committee?
Aye.
Is there a motion to accept? Do we need a resolution for this, or is this just?
No.
Okay.
This is an item that does go on the website as well, though.
Okay, so we actually don't have to adopt a resolution, but this is for us. This was what the internal auditor recommended, some actions we should be taking to address some of these issues and potential issues that could arise. So you say that takes care of the audit committee business?
Yes.
And
We can
then
adjourn.
Yes, please.
the audit committee can adjourn?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Now, you finance committee guys, do you still have stuff to do? The
Yes.
Yes, we do,
That's
yep.
the bond resolution.
A little item there.
Yes.
You and I, Joe.
All us.
All right. We have to review the 4 supplement bond resolution preliminary official statement. It's in this packet. There again,
The stand test report.
right,
That's the preliminary official statement. That's the basis for Chris's presentation for you.
okay. Chris?
Good afternoon. We have for your consideration in your packet a 4th supplemental bond resolution which would provide for the issuance of up to $104 million in new money bonds to finance the authority's capital program. So just briefly to outline that resolution, we will note that you have outstanding bonds, only the Series 2011 bonds that were just issued as refunding bonds in December. All of the other bonds are now repaid. And so you have $32,410,000 remaining outstanding with maturities from 2013 to 2017. That's what you have, outstanding at this point.
Total indebtedness.
Indebtedness.
Right.
And so therefore you have a cap available of $120 million and change. So you have room within your cap to issue up to 104. You know, ample room for that. So the principal amount here is authorized for the purpose of funding the authority's capital projects. The bonds are to mature not later than March 1, 2028. Interest rates are going to be, of course, dependent on market, but authorized at a not to exceed true interest cost of 5%. Proceeds would be applied to pay costs of issuance, to fund the debt service reserve fund that is necessary for each of the bond issues as part of our general bond resolution, and to fund the remaining into the construction fund for the capital projects. On the supplemental resolution, in your packet, there is actually a specific list of the projects that are included in the program. The Newburgh Beacon Bridge South Bend deck replacement and the Newburgh Beacon Bridge painting project are the primary projects that make up that program. There are other elements of the capital plan, the previously approved capital plan, which are identified as part of this program, and the remaining this list of projects in the Series 2012 project that is identified in the resolution exceeds the authorized bond amount, and it's noted that the additional costs of that program would be funded from the Maintenance Reserve Fund. So this is a matter of portion of the projects will be covered by the bond proceeds, based on cash flow needs, and then the remaining portion of these projects would be funded from the Maintenance Reserve. So it's a combined.
Because we weren't actually intending to bond out the painting project. That was just part of our,
We shifted some of the projects to help the administration's effort to accelerate work.
Okay.
So in moving the painting project forward, we would be accelerating that project to provide additional jobs in the area sooner than we expected. The original additional projects were scheduled for the 14-15 timeframe.
okay.
So the executive director is then delegated to provide for the sale of the bonds and to provide the specific terms. Just as we did in the last resolution, we had a process where the certificate of determination issued by the executive director at the time of the sale of the bonds actually determines the specific form and term of the bonds. The redemption provisions anticipated to be included would include an optional call, a standard optional call feature, and then an additional make-whole call, which would provide for some additional flexibility in the event that there were to be a need to call bonds sooner than the normal optional call provision, but of course that would be at a substantial premium. The net revenue coverage test, I will let Brian speak to that in just a minute, but you have a requirement under your bond resolution that you have 1.75 coverage, and you have a projection over a 5-year period that shows that you will meet that over a 5-year period. And for that, we turn to your third-party traffic consultant, Stantec, and we have a report from Stantec which provides their estimate of revenues for that period of time. So that estimate provides a basis for then establishing on the part of the authority the expectations for being able to meet the debt service coverage test, and that's part of the documentation that we need in order to be able to issue the new bonds. So I'll let Brian speak to that coverage in just a minute. You also then have a copy of the official statement draft, which will be what is used to present to the bondholders. It's very similar to the last official statement that we reviewed in detail, with, of course, the updating for the new information that we have from year-end 2011. We have all of that 2011 information now provided based on the audited figures that you just discussed. And again, we will have continuing disclosure obligations for the life of the bonds. We will have obligations to continue to provide disclosure as to annual financial information and other material events about what's going on with the authority for the benefit of your bondholders. I have a second resolution in your packet in addition to the fourth supplemental bond resolution. It's a briefer resolution, but it provides for the method of sale of the bonds. And the proposal in this case, in the last case, you had a negotiated sale with underwriters that you selected in advance. In this case, the proposal is to sell the bonds through a competitive sale and to use either sealed bids or an electronic bidding system, which is essentially a closed bidding situation. And then the award would be to the lowest true interest cost as computed at the date of sale. And that would be the method of sale. And then again, there's a delegation to the executive director to determine the specific form of the notice of sale and the timing and terms of the sale. And the anticipation is that we would be working with the financial advisors, Acacia, to move through the rating process and then move forward with the sale as soon as we can accomplish that. Brian?
as quickly as possible. In addition to what Chris said, and only the one item over and above the actual Stantec report, if you look on the next page of the handout that I had just given you as a short table, just so that you understand in terms of coverage ratio to go and meet the resolution requirement for 1.75. In 2011, because the debt service costs were much lower, as we don't have the additional debt, we were able to make the coverage ratio with the help of the other revenue. In 2012, the toll increase will allow us to go and cover the additional debt service costs associated with the new money, and will keep us well above 1.75 with very favorable market rates through 2017.
Now, did I hear you say the Finance Committee needs to do a resolution recommending a competitive sale of the bonds?
The Finance Committee should move forward both of these resolutions, the fourth supplemental resolution authorizing the up to 104 and the resolution approving method of sale. They would consider, moving both resolutions forward to the full board, yes.
With that, we will take the first one, Joe. To review the fourth supplement bond resolution. Make a motion to approve that, Joe.
Say it again.
A motion to supplement the bond resolution, the fourth one.
So moved.
Second by myself. Any discussion? If not, roll call. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And then we need another one, Joe, approving the method of sale. Make a motion regarding that, Joe?
So moved.
I'll second it. Any discussion? If not, roll call. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. And then we have,
The last item would be the Stantec report, which
Right.
will be an element of the POS, or of the OS. Basically, this gives you an overview, as Chris had described, of our projected revenues. As an independent consultant, they're giving their opinion as to what we can expect our revenues to be under the new toll schedule, and whether or not that will be sufficient to cover capital improvements for the coming 5 years. They believe it is, and we should be able to cover our capital program with the incremental funding associated with the debt issue. This is just for you to accept and recommend to the board because it's Stantec's report.
we do have that report, Joe, before us. There again, would you kindly make a motion to accept that Stantec report?
So moved.
I'll second it. Any discussion? If not, roll call. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have any other business, Joe?
No.
All right.
Dealing with these papers.
All right. Make a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee.
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you.
So we need to go into our regular meeting at this point. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the New York State Bridge Authority, March 15, 2012. I'm joined at the table here with Commissioner Vane Lashwell, Commissioner Roger Higgins, Commissioner Richard Jarentine, our Attorney Giff Whitbeck, and our Deputy Executive Director Tara Sullivan. And remotely, with the assistance of our IT Director, we have the Joe Ramaglia joining us from a sunnier place. The first item on the agenda is to adopt the minutes of the February 16th regular board meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Administration. Mr. Russo going to give us some items here to consider.
The first item under administration is the Easy Pass Group Amendment Number 8. We're asking you here to adopt a resolution to memorialize the resolution that was adopted by the Easy Pass Executive Management Committee last month, back in February, to create a new membership category under its operating agreement, which would provide for a national affiliate member, which is essentially a tolling entity that is not currently a member of the Easy Pass group, but has compatible equipment, not the same equipment that we use, but equipment that is compatible, that could be read by both entities and allow for interoperability. This is our first step toward national interoperability among ETC systems. So this would be for those agencies and entities that are tolling entities that have equipment that are similar to ours, that read RFID tags with antennas in the lanes, and allow us to exchange those transactions and reimburse each other our respective tolls. This is a big step forward, and really this was contemplating North Carolina, which just began collecting tolls in January of this year, and the Florida Turnpike Enterprise System, all the toll roads in Florida that currently operate under the SunPass mechanism. They have an interest in becoming interoperable with the Northeast region, because there are so many people that travel up and down the eastern seaboard.
So the Easy Pass system runs from Maine down to Delaware?
To Virginia. Virginia.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now we're spreading out to some of these separate entities, but we'll be
Right.
able to...
Right.
They can read our Easy Passes, and we can read
They
the
can.
Sun Passes.
They will be able to read ours. We will ultimately, as we replace equipment in our lanes, be able to read their protocol. You actually have to put in a dual protocol reader, but they are now available on the market. And so as the Northeast agencies begin to replace their readers and equipment, they can put these dual protocol or multi-protocol readers in to be able to read those other protocols. But for instance, North Carolina, since they just started collecting, they put in place from the onset multi-protocol readers. So from day one, it'll enable them to be reciprocal or interoperable.
And
That's-
we have a
There's a resolution
resolution.
to accept that.
So moved. Second? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. The second item is to renew the authority's membership, its annual membership in the International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Association, known as the IBTTA. It's based on your prior year's toll revenue, and so we have a resolution to approve the payment of our membership dues at $17,936, which is a small $69 increase over last year's dues.
Is there a motion on the resolution?
Just a question.
Sure.
It's a slight increase of $69, but if we had a decrease in our revenue, why are we paying an increase?
Well, the individual rates, if you look on the second page, have changed. The IBTTA changed the base dues. Prior to that, I think for about 3 or 4 years, they were using the same base dues, and last year I think they increased them 3%.
We didn't realize a 3% increase in our fee because of
Right.
the revenues.
Right.
Is there a motion on the, we already had a motion on the second, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The next 3 items on the agenda are all annual reports that are part of the Section 2880 Public Authorities Law, or the Public Authorities Accountability Act. We'll take them individually. These all, once you receive them and approve them, they'll all be forwarded to Albany to the various entities that are described in that section of the law. The first one is our annual prompt payment report for 2011. Under this requirement, we have to report any expenditures that we made that had chargeable interest payments or finance charges. If you look at the report itself, you'll see that there were none for the fiscal year ending 12/31/2011. So that's the report that will be filed.
Is there a
moved.
motion on this?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is a report of our annual disposals for assets that had a fair market value in excess of $5,000, and also the requirement of the Public Authorities Accountability Act is that the board recertify its disposal guidelines annually, and to redesignate someone as the contracting officer responsible for disposals, and that has been my title, Director of Administrative Services. And so you'll see that there's a report there. We had one item in the auction that had a fair market value in excess of $5,000. It was a pickup truck, so that will get reported. We also include a report of the real property that Brian also includes in his report, which he mentioned in the committee section. And then I provided the guidelines as they currently stand. And if you don't have any amendments to them, the resolution, there are two resolutions attached. One resolution readopting the guidelines and redesignating my title as the contracting officer, and the second resolution on the back accepts the report to be filed.
Motion on the first resolution, adopting the guidelines and designating the Director of Administrative Services as the contracting officer. Is there a motion on that?
I'll move it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion outlining the real property of the authority.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do we assess the value of the property?
The bridges themselves?
bridges themselves and that sort of-
The bridges themselves are provided by Majeski and Masters, who do an annual assessment for insurance purposes. The buildings themselves, we contract out to an appraiser who also does an annual assessment, okay? The most recent appraisal for the buildings was done last year. We did a roll forward. There were no improvements this year, and the bridges were just appraised as of the date of January 1st as well.
Right.
When they talk about appraisal, they're talking about the replacement cost of the bridge.
Right.
So $250 million for some of these bridges
No, the walkway is almost as valuable as...
Right, give or take
to replace anyway.
Yeah.
50 million or so, they're all 250 million.
Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the last item that I have is the annual procurement contracts report and guidelines. Again, this is a two-part item here with two resolutions. The first one is that the board has to annually recertify or readopt its procurement guidelines, and so there's a resolution to adopt the standards for the use, award, monitoring, and reporting of procurement contracts. The last time we had an actual amendment to that guideline was back in August of 2010, and so we've recertified it last year, and that's what we're asking for this year, unless you have any changes. There were no other recommendations from staff on that. And then the other part of it is a physical report of expenditures on contracts that we had in excess of $5,000 in 2011, greater than or equal to $5,000 in 2011, or any that were carried over from prior years that were multi-year contracts where we had expenditures of $5,000 or more. And there, as you can see from the report, there are several columns and categories that they ask for in terms of how the procurement was made, type of process, bidding process, amounts that were expended, the life-to-date amounts, whether they were MBEs involved, and the locations of the vendors. So this is the report that will go up to Albany and also be entered into the Paris reporting system and posted up on our website.
When the vendor is indicated as foreign, that just means out of state.
Out of state, right. That means outside of New York. Yep.
On the first resolution, dealing with the standards for the monitoring and reporting of procurement contracts, is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And then on the second resolution, which is the annual report on all the purchases exceeding, what was it, $5,000?
Greater than or equal to.
Is there a motion on that report?
So moved.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
That's all I have.
Engineering, who's, you are here. I was gonna
Hi.
say, who's subbing for Mr. Moreau?
Well, we just left our jacket off. It's awfully warm in this spring weather.
You complaining?
Yes.
The only one.
Motorcycle doesn't make any difference. Huh?
Well, that would cool things off. But I had a ski trip planned for next week, so I'm a little disappointed.
In Alaska.
Right. We have a relatively short agenda for you. As you know, every 5 years we perform an underwater inspection of the portions of the bridge below water. We advertised this opportunity in the contract reporter. And we're saving paper now, so if you read the backside of the inspection report, you can see the cost figures for the top qualified engineering firms. And we recommend McLaren Engineering Group of West Nyack, who proposed a not to exceed budget of $106,200. That's just about the same as we paid 5 years ago. So we thought that was encouraging since we added another bridge since the inspections.
Now, the resolution doesn't mention the Bear Mountain Bridge. So
No, there isn't any portion. If you take a look at our photograph up there,
There's nothing underwater.
there's nothing underwater. There's half of one pier that touches the water, but it's covered with a ice protective timber shield, so there isn't anything to inspect.
Now, is
there.
this something that wasn't being done at Plattsburgh? Because this is where they found that they had to condemn the bridge because of the deterioration below the water level?
Well, although they were doing inspections, they didn't recognize the vulnerability of the deterioration that had been reported in previous years. And then the water dropped to the point where everybody could see the underwater damage above water, and that's when some calculations were made and the true vulnerability of the condition was recognized.
So have there been any underwater inspections of the walkway done
Yes.
previous to ours?
Matter of fact, this group, the McLaren Group, did them for the walkway group about 3 years ago. And so they'll have a good feel for, we did some repairs with the walkway early last year, I guess.
We did some of our own underwater investigation
Well
a number
before-
of years ago.
Right, well before anybody. So we
Just
were,
to make sure that it
Right.
wasn't going to fall in the river.
so we gave everybody some pointers on what to look for. So that was the gist of the repair work that was done to address.
Okay,
that.
we have a resolution awarding the contract to the McLaren Group. Is there a motion on the
So
resolution?
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, we do have a cable monitoring system installed on the Bear Mountain Bridge. Monitors for sound that would be released during a wire break of some of the wires within the main cable. And we've had this in place now for 12 years, and we've had less than 12 wire breaks over that period of time. So the corrosion inhibiting efforts we made in 2000 seem to be paying big dividends, but we'd like to continue this monitoring program through Pure Technologies. This is the same fee they've charged for the last 12 years as well, so they've been holding their cost. Yes, sir.
Are they upgrading the technology as they go? Do they put new kinds of monitoring equipment, switching equipment?
That's a very good question. Matter of fact, yes, they approached us last year and said they have some fiber optic, some new equipment that uses fiber optic technology to deliver the signal, which is a little bit more clear and a little bit less of a problem to filter. So they offered to install at no cost to us this new technology in parallel with the old technology, so we can both compare the performance and reliability without losing any continuity of our record keeping. So we have both systems, and we're not paying any more for the monitoring of the two.
Is there any other bridge or bridges that might use this kind of thing and should be?
Well, there is a bridge in New York that has this technology.
Brooklyn Bridge?
No, it's actually the Whitestone. And the Annapolis Bay Bridge, which I went to visit last November, is installing this equipment now. That's a suspension bridge over the Annapolis Bay.
I think the other part of the question was, is there
Ours.
another bridge that we should be doing this with, maybe the Mid-Hudson Bridge?
Well, right, the Mid-Hudson Bridge, of course, is a suspension bridge, but every 5 years we actually peel apart the wrapping system and physically inspect, and we haven't seen any change in the condition of Mid-Hudson Bridge since we did that rehabilitation work ended in '94. So if there was anything active, we would probably recommend, adding this to Mid-Hudson. But again, our corrosion mitigation efforts seem to be performing very well so far. So $30,000 is a lot of money. We figured we'll wait until we need it. If we had a brand new bridge, we'd probably install this equipment day one, and then we would have a full history of any wire breaks. But since Mid-Hudson is already, how many years old is it? 82 years old. And we didn't have the original history when the damage that we did find had occurred. It probably doesn't have quite as much value moving forward, being that it's in an inactive state right now. So if things change, we'll let you know.
Yeah, it's really been, thank you, by the way, for, Bill took me under into the anchor room, and it was really interesting how that works and how much the bridge actually moves while you're watching. And then, of course, how much it moves. It's essential probably to keep this this kind of thing going, keep the monitoring.
Yeah, it's a bridge on strings. It is dynamic, more dynamic than our truss bridges.
Have you crossed it again since you saw it?
Absolutely. I have complete confidence in our engineering department. Does anybody doubt it?
Is there a motion on the resolution to award a continuing contract to Pure Technologies?
Can we make any tapes out of that?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Tapes on the cable?
It doesn't sound very impressive, but thank you. Next up, we need to evaluate our UPS system up at the Kingston-Rhinecliff Bridge. It had some hiccups February 21st where it failed us. UPS is uninterruptible power supply, so we run all of our power through the UPS equipment as a buffer or a protection to all our expensive toll equipment. And so it's important that this stays up and performing 24/7, 365 days a year. And with our night watch project, adding more equipment to this same facility, that's why we like to start at Kingston with a evaluation of the existing equipment and recommendations for some redundancy or enhancements. So
So what is it that happened on the 21st? That have you diagnosed the
It
problem?
failed.
yeah, it failed.
The
There,
system that's not supposed to fail, failed.
well, it basically shut everything off because it was seeing too much of a draw. And assuming it was a short, it shut itself off to protect the equipment, which means we didn't get to collect any toll electronically anyway. We did collect cash toll manually, but that's only a portion of things. So LKB is a electrical engineering firm that's already under contract with us, currently working on the walkway. So to get things going in short order, we recommend a supplemental agreement with them.
How long was it out of service?
About 4 hours.
Okay. So what did you do with the people going through the Easy Pass? Just let them go.
Say thank you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
It costs more to collect the toll anyway.
Manually, right. But this was during our rush hour, so
Okay.
it was a bruise that hurt.
Okay, there's a motion or a resolution to for the contract with LKB. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then finally, our jobs in progress. You have the report there, basically itemizing projects that are incomplete at this point. We don't have anything in construction right now, although by next month we hope that'll change.
The fierce winter weather kept you from.
Well, we just didn't have anything planned.
You assumed there would be
Assumed,
fierce
right.
winter weather.
Exactly.
Motion on the jobs in progress resolution?
Moved to accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moreau. Mr. Bushek. We get to revisit some of the things we've already visited.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Beating a dead horse.
Which is redundant.
It's old in the past, it's dead. No. Basically, the first up is the monthly investment report. had 5 investments made for the month. Things to note, we are now starting to fund the maintenance reserve fund with the benefit of the toll increase, increasing revenues. Interest rates are noticeably higher than they were at year's end, where we are seeing positive yields on things, and we're no longer needing to leave anything in cash because of short-term yields yielding negative. The investment inventory reflects, as I said before, a higher balance in the maintenance reserve fund. It's now starting to increase after the past year of decreases. Reflects the investments made for the month, and cash is sitting at 3.1 in the operating fund with 700,000 in the revenue fund. Interest income and yield are relatively flat, and that's the investment report for February.
Is there a motion on the report? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is the Public Authority cost recovery charges. Public Authorities Law 2975 directs the Division of Budget to allocate expenses. This year, the cost for the authority is $340,000, up $28,000 from 2011 and 2010. Basically, we're down versus 2009. The Division of Budget does not provide detail explaining how they allocate or who they charge.
So this is the mystery bill we get every year from the state.
That's the only note I put on weird. Read this. What's the reason for that? Is it just people
Allocating costs. They're trying to cost sharing effectively.
And what happens if we don't pay this bill?
In the past, we have delayed it, but in the end, my understanding is we've always paid it.
What happens if we don't pay this bill?
I get the feeling we'll get a phone call from the Division of Budget, but I don't know for certain because I don't believe we've never paid this.
Actually, we can take heart that they need the money worse. Is there a motion on the
I'll make it.
resolution? All in favor?
Okay. The next up is the report coming out of the Committee for Public Authorities Law, Section 2800. As noted, this will be provided to the Senate or the various heads of the legislature and the Senate, as well as the Paris system. We'll be reporting it on the authority's website. The various reports, the accomplishments, projects, the financial statements, the schedule of debt issuance, the compensation schedule, code of ethics, the real estate report, the internal controls of the authority measurements, along with the annual certification.
Is there a motion to accept what has been recommended to us earlier by the committee, the public, Section 2800 Public Authorities Law reporting?
So move.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, the next item is the annual investment report, also coming out of the committee. The 3 reports, the independent accountant's report on compliance, the investment guidelines, and the interest income for the year.
I had actually asked Brian to look into whether we want to visit the investment guidelines at some point to give us a little more flexibility. As I see it, we're not allowed right now to invest in other New York State public authority debt, which we might be able to get a better return if it was rated low enough for some things. But so he's going to look into that. So, but for now, this is the same investment guidelines that we've been operating on. Is there a motion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item up is the resolution for the New Money 2012 series. The only item I want to go and add that I neglected to mention in the committee, we're estimating now that the anticipated total or interest cost will be approximately 2.9%, which is very favorable compared to the last bond yield that we went out, which was up in the mid to high 3s.
That was the 32 million?
No, the 32 was less because it was a shorter term.
Oh, okay.
I'm referring to the 2002 issue.
Okay. And as Chris was explaining to me earlier, this authorizes up to 104. We actually need $96 million worth of net in order to fund our 98
Yes.
to fund our projects. So depending on what discounts we have to offer along with the bonds, that will determine how much of that we have to issue and debt. This includes the provision which would allow the bonds to be called if our authority were to cease to exist, which takes care of any concerns from anybody north of us. And it means that, I guess, Chris, I get to meet you again and sign my name on all these papers. It's an amazing thing. And I get to authorize them $100 million in debt. I just hope they don't come looking for me to pay it off. If there's a motion on going forward with the bonding,
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
When do you expect that this will take place?
Can I just, probably, Brian, do we have a schedule?
We do not have a schedule yet, but we're going as
We're talking
quickly as we
weeks.
can. Weeks.
Weeks.
And could I ask you to just do that as a roll call, please?
Okay. Calling the roll on the bond issue, Commissioner Lashwa.
Aye.
Commissioner Higgins.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramaya.
Yes.
Commissioner Gerantine.
Yes?
And Commissioner Vasilio, yes.
And I'm sorry, Chris, they will also need to vote on the method of sale, correct?
Yes,
All right.
Okay, so
Okay, we
it was
have another
actually two.
resolution
The last couple pages of that section.
on the same thing.
Yes.
Authorizing to sell these bonds to be done through the competitive process. Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in
Roll call.
favor?
Roll call.
Do you want a roll call on that as well? Roll call, Mr. Lashwa.
Aye.
Yes.
Mr. Higgins. Mr. Ramaya. Mr. Gerantine.
Yes?
And I for me. And the Stantec report, which says we have the money to pay the bonds. We need to accept that, I believe.
No actions required by the
No
board, It's
action.
purely for information purposes.
But this says that we will have sufficient funds and they won't have to come looking for them.
That's right.
Raise it 2.96 for the bond?
Basically, it's an average. The yields will go in.
Mr.
depending on
Hurd,
the
I think
yields
it's your
will be
turn.
higher Depending on the maturity. So the 1-year bond is going to be plus the 5 years is going to be up to 3 years. Or the 15 years.
So the assessment,
Thank you, Brian.
everything included
This number, it's just these are
Good afternoon.
in your other.
I've got a single item. This is actually, we've combined two items into a single resolution and memo. This is regarding ITS funding for our ITS consultant TransDigm. We awarded a contract in 2010, giving them the title of our system-wide intelligent transportation engineering consultant. Under that contract, they handle maintenance for us, and they can also handle additional tasks such as design, inspection, integration of any projects we have in the video system. So the first item described in this memo is the standard maintenance funding for them. This is an amount not to exceed $50,000. The money is not paid directly to them, but it's on a per hour basis. So as we have problems with the system that require their expertise to come in and repair, fix, and maintain the system, we draw upon that money. The second item is the final portion of our port security grant. We have completed work at the Rip Van Winkle, Kingston Rhinecliff, and Bear Mountain bridges. The video systems are in place. We are now turning to the final phase in which we are going to upgrade the Mid-Hudson and Meeburg Beacon bridge systems to come in line with the remaining bridges. We tapped on TransDigm to help us build the Ethernet ring required to tie in the cameras, and they have given us a price not to exceed $50,460 for that work. So the total amount in the resolution is $100,460.
Questions? Is there a motion on that contract award? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, would your department be involved in what was being described earlier about this interconnectivity with the other, as far as making adjustments to our
Antennas and
readers?
EasyPass.
So-
The IT department isn't directly involved. However, the components do talk across our network.
Oh, I see.
So that from a facility-to-facility connectivity and then reporting into the throughway and information that's exchanged, my department does handle the infrastructure portion.
Thank you.
Very well. Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson? At least we understand what this bill's for.
Yeah, this should be short and sweet. Just one item. Some of your memos may say it's third quarter 2011 Easy Pass, but rest assured it's the fourth quarter. So this bill's for October 1st through December 31st, our Easy Pass expenses of $737,400. We had about 4.6 million Easy Pass transactions that quarter, and they're about 15.9 cents each. So I ask you to consider paying that bill.
Who did this with you now this time?
Mike Zawadzki
Now,
reviewed it.
what leads to the increasing year to year the cost per transaction? Just they changed their rates
Well,
to cover their increasing costs?
That covers the back end costs, including the postage for mailing out the bills, the salaries for the people who answer the phone down there. And I don't think any of that decreases year over year.
Yeah. Okay. So it's almost 19 cents, or well, actually it's down a little bit.
It's 16. Yeah, it varies a little bit. There's a
It was for the whole year for 11, it's saying it was 18.3 cents per.
right, so slightly down from 2010, half a cent.
And keep in mind, when we look here at the revenue increase as a result of our toll, for the commuters before, they were only paying 50 cents a day, and we were paying 18 cents of that to the thruway. So we weren't keeping much to maintain the bridges under the old toll structure. Is there a motion on this resolution?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Okay, Tara, subbing for Joe. Do you have anything to report to us?
The monthly activity report for the executive director had no activity, so that would be enough.
Okay. And as I alluded to, we received these traffic classification comparison reports, one for, I think it was just the month of January, and then one for the month of February and year-to-date. The second month is when the toll increase went into effect. It's not all driven just by the toll, because you can see the traffic was up 8% in January and another 10% in February, so I assume that's nicer weather this year, more people on the road, even if we had a day where everybody got a freebie, or maybe that was in March, I'm not sure. But you can see a huge increase in our revenues as a result of the toll increase, which will allow us to pay for this work for maintenance and rebuild our reserve fund and so forth. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to bring to the board's attention? Mr. Whitback, do you need us for any attorney-client conversations?
I do not.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
You're always quick with that.
I know.
All in
I
favor?
can't imagine why.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.